Goedendag, good day. How are you, lovely human being, feeling at this moment? My name is Phylicia Joy Kloes, and in today's video, I'm gonna share with you how I reduce my footprint by either the things I do, the things I purchase or do not purchase, and by just some habits that I'd like to share with you today. So first of all, we have moved to another house, and in this house we actually have room for a bigger washing machine. We opted for a combination of dryer plus washing machine. However, even though I have an option to dry my clothes in the machine, I rather dry my clothes on the rack. First of all, that is better for the environment. Second of all, it's also better for the clothing. And of course, it reduces the footprint since it's not using electricity and all that for the machine to dry the items. In addition to our clothing, we also use this Eco-Ver washing powder that is more sustainable to use. It is not added on with water and it is just a powder that actually does have a smell. A lot of the eco products don't have scents, but this one does. We enjoy this a lot. And by doing so, we choose with our money to support businesses that are more sustainable. Speaking of clothes, it is also important for me to shop secondhand when things are needed or to borrow things. For example, I was able to borrow a lot of things during my pregnancy from friends and from family of friends, which was awesome. I was gifted a lot of things, and through this secondhand clothing situation, I was able to use a lot of clothing without having to purchase anything and not support capitalism. I have to say though, all of us probably have enough clothes in our closet already. And it's probably going to be very helpful to not follow trends, since then you're more tempted to purchase new things, as secondhand shops don't often carry those things yet. But yeah, secondhand is the way to go for me. Then I try to opt for as minimal plastic purchases as possible. For example, when there are some veggies in plastic, I rather opt for veggies that are not wrapped in plastic. However, there sometimes is a catch. For example, when you go to the grocery store and you read the labels of where these veggies come from, sometimes it is closer when they're wrapped in plastic compared to when they're not. Like, for example, I went to the grocery store and I saw that the organic item was grown in Spain. The non-organic item was grown in the Netherlands. And of course, organic versus not organic is kind of a different debate, since with organic items, they don't use pesticides on their crops. And with non-organic items, they most likely do, or the seeds are built in the lab to where they can resist certain chemicals. And there's a lot to say about that. However, from Spain to the Netherlands takes some CO2 as well. And that footprint also has a history behind it. In addition, I learned that there was a scarcity of water in Spain. However, because they wanted to grow the produce for the other European countries, they used a lot of water for those crops, which of course the crops need, but there was a drought. So, you know, it's just something to think about when you purchase your items, that you try to be very aware of the footprint you leave behind. It's just important to take into consideration all the different steps it takes for an item to get to you, and not just think, oh, let me buy organic. It's, you know, it's looking at the bigger picture. This is something that is very logical to me. However, I guess not all people do this. I carry a water bottle with me at all times. I really enjoy this certain water bottle. It's very beaten up because it fell out of my bag a couple of times, but I really enjoy this bottle. It's insulated really well to where I put hot tea in there, it's way too hot to drink out of it. I usually just fill it with water and then throughout the day refill it a bunch of times. For me, it's not about having a trendy bottle of water. It's just a vessel to use that holds my liquid and that helps me stay hydrated. So I hope This is a little reminder for you to not also try to be trendy with your water bottle, because that's not necessary. That just, lets the capitalists win. Then something else I do is use a reusable straw. I have this straw I always use for my coffee. It might sound kind of weird, but I drink my coffee with a straw, and I just use this one again and again. After cleaning, I just use it. And the coffee did stain my straw, but it's not about aesthetics really. It's just to help me drink my coffee and kind of try to reduce the stain on my teeth. That's why I drink coffee with a straw. I also have some metal straws, but those don't really work with hot coffee, as metal, uses the heat, or it lets the heat go through. But yeah, a reusable straw is really, really handy. I've had glass ones in the past and I like the way they drank. However, bringing those with you places is really unhandy. I am very clumsy, so I drop things a lot. And that's probably why also none of them exist anymore to this day. But I did enjoy the drinking experience. I did not enjoy the carrying or clumsiness aspect. I also have a lot of Tupperware to keep my food in when we have leftovers, and once in a blue moon we order, which we don't order food that much at all, especially compared to I think 5 years ago or so. Musa and I cook ourselves a lot. However, when we do order in, we tend to keep these containers as well. So then, for example, when someone comes over and we decide to bake cookies, they could just bring it home and I don't have to worry about losing my own Tupperware. And we end up using that kind of Tupperware as well. So reusable things are very, very handy. I like to drink tea, and I like loose leaf tea as well. There are a lot of different tools you can use to drink loose leaf tea. I like the bigger bucket, so to speak, the most, since it doesn't bleach leaves into your water that much compared to the other ones. But loose leaf tea is really lovely, and it also kind of saves you on how much you throw away. In addition, they did some research, and in those bags there's often sugar or other different particles. There's this Dutch program called Radar, I believe they showed it in. It was an interesting video, and it doesn't mean that I don't drink any bags of tea, because I do. Which might make me a little bit of a hypocrite by adding this bit into the video, but just want to let you know I do drink both still. However, I prefer loose leaf tea when I look at my footprints that I leave behind, since it produces less trash. And speaking of which, I still have to get into composting, so there's definitely some steps I can take to reduce my trash in the regular bin even more by getting more into that aspect, but I'm not there yet. I always carry bags with me to the grocery store. In the Netherlands, you have to pay for grocery bags, which has been like this for years. I feel like just in the US they started doing this, which honestly is really lovely to me, because it hopefully helps people use less plastic bags, and hopefully people can become too stingy to want to use it. And for certain products, it comes with a plastic bag already. Like, for example, when I get bread inside a plastic bag, and that bag is used for my other plastic trash, because I unfortunately still produce plastic trash. There's no way around it, but that's just the way it is. But I still have plastic that I use to put my plastic things in. Another example is toilet paper. I am not plastic free with my toilet paper yet, because to be honest, that's kind of too expensive for me. I have tried the Good Roll, but my budget is just not allowing it at the moment. And the toilet paper bag that the toilet paper houses has in it, or has around it, I use that also for my plastic waste. Another obvious thing is to use your things as long as possible to avoid having to buy it new or having to buy it secondhand. I had been reusing peanut butter jars. Another thing I do is eat vegan. I eat mostly plant-based. However, lately, because of my baby, I am more vegetarian at times than vegan. So of course that has a bigger footprint than eating completely plant-based, but I just wanted to mention that since, you know, that does have a lot to do with the footprint you have as a person. I also separate my trash. I mentioned earlier in the video I could still get more into composting, so I could improve on my trash sorting situation a little bit better. However, we already sort out our glass, our recycles, our plastic, our paper, and we have regular trash. And we do have another bin for the green trash, so that's what I want to use in the future for composting, or before I start composting, I want to make it more of a habit to where my food scraps go in there rather than the regular trash. But I'm not yet someone who is using reusable diapers. That also requires a lot of water from the washing. So currently we do have diapers that we throw away. Not sure if I want to change that in the near future, because so far I'm okay with it. But yeah, speaking of trash, that made me think of the diapers as a first-time parent. Something else I do to reduce my footprint is use the public transportation when I can. I also like to bring my own coffee from home inside my own coffee cup, as it reduces the amount of trash, and honestly, the coffee from home is just lovely. I sometimes also switch it out with tea though. I also like to cycle places. The Netherlands is a country where you can easily cycle. So that helps a lot to go from A to B. Something else I do is pick up trash or go plogging. I haven't been for a run in a while, but you know, picking up trash whenever you go somewhere is also making the world a little greener, a little cleaner, and the impact of trash is huge. So it's good to do what you can do. So I mentioned this a little earlier on already. However, cooking from scratch reduces the amount of waste compared to when, for example, you buy pre-made meals. In addition, you have a lot more leftovers. You know exactly what goes into it, and usually I feel like that's more clean anyways compared to when you purchase pre-made things, pre-made foods. And you know, cooking is fun. I like cooking. Something else we do is unplug the items that we're not using, so it's not just sitting in an outlet. In addition, turning off lights that you're not using. For my beauty routine, I use coconut oil as a cream, as a makeup remover. Not that I wear that much, but coconut oil is just lovely. Speaking of which, I also have a bamboo toothbrush, and when it gets wet, it does get kind of weird. Because of course, wet wood or wet bamboo can create kind of like a mold reaction, so then you want to switch it out, of course. However, having that toothbrush is a good feeling for me, because not a lot of the toothbrush is plastic then. In order to clean my face and body, I use a washcloth. I don't use those tiny cotton swabs or anything. To just use once and throw away. So that is something I do. For me, it's very common sense and not really something that is too different maybe from what all people do, but I just decided to mention it in case this is maybe helpful. Speaking of which, in the bathroom I also have reusable Q-tips, but to be honest, I don't like those. They're not that comfortable, and I do tend to use paper cotton swabs for my ear. I'm glad to say that I finally found a deodorant that is more natural as well as vegan. It is not plastic free, however, I'm finally not getting a reaction because my body cannot stand baking soda, but this deodorant smells lovely. It is quite expensive, but it is working really well for me and more sustainable than supporting other bigger companies that are not doing two great things for the world. I also like to choose a sunscreen that is vegan plus better for the marine life, because whenever I am planning on swimming in the sea or in the ocean, I use this sunscreen since this is better for the marine life. A lot of sunscreen has really harsh chemicals that can be damaging for wildlife, plus corals and all that. So I like to choose this one. Something else I do is reuse gift wrap. When I get a gift, I tend to unwrap it really carefully so the paper is still intact. I save it upstairs, same with boxes, and then I reuse it for the next time. I don't really purchase new gift paper because I don't really have to. And I also avoid at all times having that plastic film around gifts. First of all, the sound. I don't know why, but I don't like the sound. It makes me like react to it. And it's plastic. I do think, it can look pretty, I guess, but I don't think it's necessary. The gift is just as fun without it. Tissue paper might even be a better option, I think, than the plastic. Something else I have is a Diva cup. I haven't used it for a while because I haven't had my menstruation. And for the moments I don't want to use a Diva cup, I have the organic pads because they unfortunately do use a lot of chemicals on these products as well, and I decided to have some organic ones available in the house for whenever it's needed. Something else I have is reusable batteries that you can recharge and then use again and recharge and reuse again. I like it. They do, I feel like, empty quicker, or they are used up quicker, I feel like, than regular batteries. I have to be honest about that. But maybe that's also because I didn't get the best quality batteries. Before this store filed bankruptcy, I went to this store and I refilled my bottle of shampoo and bottle of conditioner, which I liked a lot. I used this ginger soap and conditioner, and I like the fact that you could just refill it and reduce the amount of bottles you use. Now, however, because that store is not available anymore, I am back to using shampoo bars and conditioner bars. So another thing I do, which is quite sustainable, is not to get rid of items when they are not right. Like, for example, this lovely top that I got secondhand, which is something else I do, which I believe is better for the environment and not supporting these fast fashion brands or unethical working conditions from these insane companies producing too much things or too many things. But I also fix my clothing when something is up. Like when a button is missing, or when something is ripped, like for example a skirt, and then because I fix it just by having a needle and some thread, you can increase the amount of time that you can enjoy your items. And I'm not saying that I'm the best at this, to be honest. I have a lot to learn. There are probably a lot of better techniques. I'm not caring too much about it being too perfect when it comes to this button. I just want it to be strong and not fall off. And also, some of you might be upset that this button doesn't match the ones that the shirt came with, because it has more like a pearly button. Well, I used to have a pearly cover, but a lot has vanished already. But I have two buttons in here now that are not matching. But since it's a neutral button, I don't really care too much. And I'm just happy to be able to wear my shirt again in the way I want it to. I sometimes wear this button down, sometimes I wear it button up, but it's noticeable when there's a hole. So by doing this, the shirt gets to have a longer life expectancy, so to speak, and it's more sustainable. Oh. There are birds on my balcony, Last winter I put seeds there and they're looking for it. I haven't gotten new ones though. I need to get some new organic bird seeds. I get that from this store called Deley and Camilla. I'm not sure if this store is everywhere. I'm pretty sure it's in different European countries for sure, but not sure beyond that. But they're looking for it. They're constantly on the balcony edge or they fly close to the window and then they see me and they get scared, unfortunately. I want to be their friend, but it's good that they're scared, to be honest. Some people might take advantage of them not being scared, so that's not good. So yeah, project done. Lastly, I like to support sustainable businesses, like for example, the Sustainable Hairdresser in Alkmaar. This hairdresser has a lot of vegan products available and they, for example, use the cut hair to prevent oil spills and all that. So the whole idea behind this company is to leave a better footprint behind compared to some other hairdressers.
Welcome to Green and Gorgeous!
Thank you so much! My baby is up. I have to stop my video here. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you like this video, please leave a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and I'll chat to you. Bye-bye!